So now that State of Decay 3 has been announced, I think it's time to start talking about a question that I've been asked multiple times, and that is, what do I want to see in State of Decay 3? And so I want to talk about State of Decay 3, not just what I want to see. I want to make videos about what you guys have said, but that's a really complex subject. So we'll break it down video by video. And so today, I want to talk about what I want to see in State of Decay 2. And if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. I want more management. Management for days. That's what I want to see. And the reason for that is because, well, that's what makes State of Decay unique compared to other zombie games. Like, the management elements of State of Decay is what make it a bit more special than your typical zombie game. And also, the management is what's going to give State of Decay more longevity than anything else that's cosmetic that Undead Labs is currently doing. A more complex management simulation will go so much farther than 2 years worth of Bounty Broker releases. Just 2 years worth, so basically 24 Bounty Broker packs will have less of an impact than an in-depth management system that makes you want to replay the game and makes it where it takes longer to get to that objective, and the decision making is more meaningful from start to finish. Because that's why I restart State of Decay so frequently. It's because the beginning of a game, especially in a fresh start, that's the most fun in the game, because that's where the management makes the most difference. That's where the decision making makes the most difference. That's when the looting makes the most difference. So there has to be a way to extend that through the game, because once you kind of get going and you can like move into a decent base, set up a trade depot, the game's basically over. The game is done. It's not hard to just get your characters, upgrade the base, build the facilities up, plug in the mods, and install whatever outpost you want. That's not very hard to do. It's not, and it doesn't take very long, and the game's basically over at that point. Yeah, you can collect guns or recruit more characters and find the super awesome traits, but you don't even need those. Like, there's nothing to use them on. Like, the game doesn't get any harder. The game only gets easier once you start establishing itself, or yourself rather, and that's the problem with the game. The game ends too soon because the management simulation is too shallow, and adding in cosmetic guns doesn't help that in any way, shape, or form. In fact, in a lot of ways, it makes it worse. Like when I talked about in craftsmanship, how the certain bounty broker features or certain updates, they actually make your core skills even less attractive than some of them already were. Anyways, so one of the ways I think management could be improved is through what I'm going to call assignments, intel, and scouting. So assignments, what are they? Well, this is kind of like a expansion to the current game's labor mechanics. So the first thing I want is automation. Automation is basically, instead of having to every single day activate all your dumb abilities, like, oh, I better seed the garden, but you got to do it manually. I want to make all of that automatic, just automatic stuff. You know, you do the seeding, do the communications relay, plunge the toilets. I want that to all be automatic, and they can do something where it's like 10 minutes before the game checks upkeep, you can be asked to report, hey, do you want to cancel any of these? Because maybe you want to reassign labor. You're the boss, so you're getting the report, and you can go on your walkie-talkie and you can be like, nah, you can either ignore it and upkeep will go as planned, or you can say, hey, give me 10 minutes. I'm in the middle of a fight. I'll get back to you. And then you can like open it up, look at the report, and you can just push one button, say, yeah, that's fine. Just do what you're doing. No changes. Or you could say, no. Skip seeding the garden this day. Or for now, I need some manpower elsewhere. But then we get to the other side of it. We need more complex things to put our manpower on, because manpower it's just way too basic. It's like, what do you need manpower for? You need it to get to the base you want. There's like a survivor requirement. And then there's like, you need to build like a large facility. It takes like 4 people to build it, like your trade depot, and bam, you put 4 people on it, and that's it. Well, once you're done building your base, what good is your labor? Like, yes, you use a little bit of it to activate your facilities and whatnot, but labor, I think, is just this really underused mechanic. And so after this idea, like I said, we want automation. I want long-term labor assignments. Assignments that can take days, weeks, maybe just until you say no more of it. And we need to nuance the existing ways to deploy labor. Here's a great idea. So you want to build that trade depot. It takes 4 people to build it. Well, what you can do is you can assign how many people are going to work on it. You can put 1 person on it, 2 people on it, 3 people on it, or 4 people on it. And the more people you have on it, the faster it will build. And people who have skills like craftsmanship, they count as multiple people. So one guy with craftsmanship, maybe he counts as 2 people. And one person with construction, maybe he counts as everybody. So one guy with construction has the labor power of 4 people. And that way you free up more of your labor, because I want you to be able to put your labor in other locations. And that's where you get to these ideas of assignments. Now, before we can really talk about assignment, because here's the thing. When I was scripting this video, I realized these 3 ideas are kind of interconnected. So I'm just going to kind of jump between them and talk about them, how they interact, rather than let's talk about assignments, let's talk about intel, let's talk about scouting. So let's get into this idea of intel. The point of intel is to give you information so that you can decide what assignments to spend your labor force on. So this idea of intel, just like how assignments, they're going to revamp the labor mechanic, intel is going to revamp the map. And I want to introduce the fog of war. Now, what's the fog of war? If you've played strategy games, you're probably familiar with it. It's basically the decay of knowledge that you have on anything, really. A good example is, hey, I saw a bunch of zombies in the woods, but it was a week ago. Well, who knows if those zombies are still in the woods 1 week later? They might be. They might not be. There might be even more of them than there were before. The thing is that the data, the intel was 1 week old, so it's not as relevant as it was day one. That's the idea of the fog of war, that your intel decays over time. So on the map, you're going to reveal the map, but there will be a fog of war that kind of returns and obscures the map to let you know that, hey, you've been here and you've seen things, but hey, it's been like a few days. It might not be as accurate as it was originally, and this will bring back the importance of regular scouting. And I don't want you to do everything. I think that would get really tedious. So kind of weaving in the assignments. One of the assignments you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to choose one of your survivors and send them on a mission to scout certain parts of the map to refresh your knowledge. And this is where you're going to be able to make further assignments. You'll be able to make further decisions based on the intel you have. And also, you'll have to interpret basically, you'll get the data and you'll look at it on your map because you're the boss and you're looking at your map. And you'll have options, but you'll have to interpret how good that data is. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So there's going to be these filters on the map. I'm going to call them either strategic lenses or strategic filters. And some examples of what these could be. The first one is going to be the zombie density filter. So you're looking at your map, and then you push the zombie lens. And so then a heat map overlays on top of the map, and it shows it's kind of like watching the Weather Channel. You've got areas of green, and then it goes all the way to red. The green areas, the green zone, one could say, are places that you have scouted, and you reported little to no zombie activity, so it's safe. And then you've got yellow areas where there was a decent number of zombies, and then red areas that are heavily infested. And it's just going to create these kind of like I said, almost like weather patterns on the map, and it's going to change. And this is a way that there can be areas that are very dense with zombies. Some areas will be very reliable, like a downtown city area. You can you can count on that area being a red area. There's going to be a ton of zombies in the downtown area, but what about right around your base? If the area around your base is turning yellow, starting to turn orange, that means your base is getting surrounded. That's not good. If you want to go into the woods, and the woods are currently red, there's just for some reason a bunch of zombies passing through that area, maybe you change your plans. So that's the idea, that you can change these filters. Another filter in State of Decay 3 is that there's going to be a wildlife filter, so for hunting, because I want to introduce hunting into the game. And once again, it's something that you can do, or you can assign someone to go and do it. And because you're scouting and getting intel, you can say, hey, I can use the wildlife filter, and I can see here that there was a lot of reports of wildlife sightings. And on top of that, the zombie filter is saying green. It's low zombie density. Hey, I'm not going to do that myself. I've got other important things to do. I'm going to send one of my guys off to go hunt for me, and then you're spending one of your manpower, and that person can't defend the base either. They're actually physically out in the woods. Their character is out in the woods, so they're not available to defend the base. They're not available to do other tasks, and that's what I mean, this idea of long-term workforce assignment. And it's going to be more impactful because sending a lot of people out leaves your base more vulnerable, and you won't be able to do other projects. You'll have to kind of like weigh it out, like what do you need more of? Anyways, another feature will be your scouting, both you and anyone you send out. You're going to find anomalies, basically just oddities. Like maybe you find survivors, unidentified survivors. Maybe you find a plague heart or a infestation, something that you can predict might not, it either won't move, or if it does move, it won't move very quickly. Something that you can, even with the fog of war, say the plague heart probably isn't going to move. It's probably going to, who knows, maybe they do move in State of Decay 3, but they can be like survivors. They can be maybe a freak zombie, a dangerous freak zombie that is making the area very hostile to send your guys out to go loot. You could find vehicles. There could be a disturbance in the wildlife. Like maybe there was a weird like sound someone heard. Like, I don't know what it was. And maybe it's like a zombie bear or something. And by scouting, you'll be able to create your own adventures. You won't need the game to make these random quests that typically have nothing to do with anything. I'm talking about the quest like, oh, my buddy got lost. Like, would you go find him and bring him back? You do, you bring him back, you get a little influence, and that's it. It's like, what did that quest do? It was like, you just did this thing, and it did nothing to the long-term strategy of the game. I want quests that actually do something, where if you fail them, or succeed at them, or ignore them, they actually have some kind of impact. So then you're looking at your map, and it'll be based on the map will be divided into like territories or regions. You'll be able to like select a territory, and then you'll be able to say send someone on a scouting mission, or send somebody on a hunting mission or a fishing mission, or send somebody on a combat mission. Like you could do something like, oh, the land around the base is starting to turn orange, and I want to send in a combat squad to start wiping out the zombies, just like a hunter-killer squad. And it's going to be not just one guy. I'm going to send 4 people there. Maybe you even send a vehicle with them. You send 4 of your survivors, get in the truck, so they're gone from the base, and so is the truck. And they go out and they go on a mission to basically thin out the zombies. And they're physically there on the map. That's something I want to do. Like if you send someone on a hunting mission, maybe it's like yellow difficulty. It's kind of like, oh, there are some zombies there. So you send one guy out to hunt, one guy to give them backup. So you're going to send 2 of your labor out there. And then you say, hey, take the truck with you so you can bring more stuff back. I want you to be able to go to where they are, and you'll physically find their characters there, and then you can help them if you want, or you can thin out the zombies just to make it safer for them. You can help however you want, or you can just leave them there. And we can have things happen where it's like, oh, if you send them somewhere really dangerous, things can happen. You might need to bail them out. They might get injured, stuff like that. But they need to be physically on the map so you can go there and help them yourself. And if you send people out to thin out the zombies, they actually need to patrol around and start destroying hordes of zombies, like your team of 4 guys with their truck wiping them out. And you need to be able to spend stuff like 4 people, send out the vehicle, and then maybe spend 1 whole rucksack of ammo. You can take a full rucksack with you for the maximum firepower. Knock these zombies out. So you're investing your resources, and so you're making assignments, but you're making assignments based on intel, and when you don't scout, the fog of war creeps in to make it kind of like, oh man, this data might be old. we might be chasing ghosts. Like, oh, you thought that there was like a dangerous like feral out here, but it's been a week. He's probably not there anymore. Another thing would be like your allies. They can give you daily reports from what they've found. So like your allies are capable of giving you intel. They can appraise you of like, oh, we found like a dangerous thing, or it looks like there's great hunting opportunities here. And there should be a new kind of outpost where it's just like a tower or something. And so you can station someone there, and you physically have to station them there. They have to leave the base. You lose one workforce as long as they are in that scouting tower, but they give you a constant sort of update on the intel, and you can launch missions. You can tell other guys to go over to the tower and launch missions from there. This idea that you're the boss, you're telling your guys to do things, but at the same time, you haven't turned State of Decay into like a complete management game like Oxygen Not Included. You're still able to go out there and do the looting. You can go out and scout. You can go out and hunt. You can go and purge the zombies. You can play the game just like State of Decay. You can do it yourself, but now we want to expand this idea that the game is harder, it's more complex, and you're going to manage your entire team and not just you. And I think there's this idea, like I said, of intel and assignments. Now I'm going to introduce this idea of scouting. So scouting is one of these things where it's going to be not just something you want to do, but you need to do it Well, you don't need to, but it would probably be smart to do it periodically. And the quality of the intel you get is going to be based on the sources. So like, if you send someone out to scout, and what do you know? He happens to have the skill scouting, he's going to give you better intel that is more reliable and has more detail to it. He will find more things than someone who doesn't have any skill in scouting. Same with like a scouting watchtower that is currently being manned by a character with skill in scouting will be way more observant and find more things than someone who doesn't have any knowledge of scouting. And so there's this idea that the skills make a difference and the people that you assign can make a difference. Like even just with like food, like I want to have an idea of, this is going to be probably for another video, but the short idea is that I want you to be able to grow food, but then you're basically making these vegetarian meals, and some people will be okay with it, some people won't. But if you go out hunting, you can bring back meat, and you can grow vegetables, and now you can start making these much better meals that make people who like meat happy. You could still have vegetable meals. You might have a guy who's like, his quirk is he's a vegan. You might have a guy who's like a super meat-eating guy. But either way, instead of having cooking where it's like you make a nutritious meal or a cuisine meal, forget about that. No, just make it based on the ingredients. And I'd say there's 3 ingredients. There's fruits and vegetables, that'd be 1 ingredient. Meat, which would be like fish and hunting and whatnot. And then there'd be spices. So you'd be able to grow luxury spices in your garden so that you could sell it to other people, or you could use it in your own cooking. So you could make kind of like a commerce thing where you're like, oh, we're so snobby that we're going to use our gardens to cook like spices and herbs to have luxurious meals and then sell it to other people for an absorbent amount of money or ammo or whatever resource you're going to do. But the point is that I want these kinds of management things. Anyways, back to scouting. So you can scout yourself, or you can say, or both. You're going to go out and scout, or you can send someone else to do it. And when you're going out, what you can do is there'll be some kind of mode. You can go into scouting mode, and when you scout, it'll show you like, okay, you can climb up here to gain some intel. And then when you go around and you look, the little question marks. So like in State of Decay 1 and 2, you got the little question marks. Those are the buildings you're going to reveal. So instead of having to manually reveal every building, which I think is a little tedious, you just kind of need to look around and it'll reveal. And the question marks will pop up when your character sees something. Hey, what is that? I don't know what that is. And a question mark will appear. And what you can do is to improve the quality of the intel. So when you're personally scouting, you'll find these little question marks. These will be the little anomalies. And you go visit them yourself. And that every time you do that, it will improve the quality of the intel. You have to decide if you're in like a red zone where it's super dangerous, you might not want to do that. You might be like, oh, I'm okay with like kind of whatever-ish intel. Like this area is really dangerous. But on top of that, as you explore these question marks, they could be something like, hey, this car is functional. Or it could be another group of survivors, and suddenly that launches a quest. All of a sudden, you find survivors. What is your first contact protocol? Do you greet them openly and say, hey, how you doing? Maybe you sneak by them and eavesdrop and try to get an idea what they're doing. Maybe you approach them aggressively and threaten them. Maybe you attack them on sight. Maybe they attack you on sight. But the point is that I don't want these, like, I mean, I'm not opposed to random quests. I think it's okay if survivors come to approach you for things. But when a quest appears, I want it to be something that has an impact on the game. So when you're out scouting and you find these anomalies, this is how you're going to generate quests. And even when you find like a car, when you find the car, you should have the option to interact with the car and say, hey, this car is broken, but I want to get it up and running. Where's my mechanic? And you can assign the mechanic, hey, get the mechanic over here. I want them to get this car up and running. Or get someone over here to siphon the gas out of this vehicle, screw the vehicle. I just want the gas out of it. You can just bring people out of your community to accomplish tasks based on what you and your scouts are finding. So you're generating quests that are directly tied to the persistence of the game, rather than just random quests that you just do them and that's the end of it. Like, oh man, chop off 10 zombie arms and get yourself some of these like Zed Hunter items, things that just really don't have any impact on the long-term persistence of the game. Like, that's what I want to move away from, and instead I want quests that are really relevant to what you're doing and what you're going to do in the future. One example is, so as you're scouting and you find an infestation, you should be able to get up your walkie-talkie and you know, there's a survivor allies nearby. You know, call them up and say, hey, there's an infestation, you know, practically in your backyard. I guess we overlooked it. You know, you want to go take it out? And they can say, hey, yeah, we'll do it. But, you know, we want a cut of the loot in the building that they're looting. You know, like, we'll split the loot after we clear the infestation. And they might say, you know, maybe they're not the most agreeable type. They say, you know, we want it to be 75-25 our way. And you can be like, whoa, wait a second now. I'm the one who found it, and I've got the firepower. It's going to be 75-25 my way. Or maybe you can be like, what's wrong with 50-50? You know, let's be cool now. And, you know, you should be able to make these are the kinds of decisions that I want to do. And, you know, that improves your standing with that group. Or maybe if you give in to their demand, they're like, oh, we can bully this loser around. And so they're a bit more aggressive with you, or they don't want to help as much. Like, these are the kinds of things. This is what I mean by expanding the management. The systems that are too shallow, that need to be developed and made more interesting. Like the ability to spend your work power, the ability to like let's automate some of the tedious things. Like, you know, like, do we really need to activate that seating button every single day? Make it automated. I want to be able to spend my resources on more than just daily upkeep stuff. I want to do stuff like go out and wipe out some zombies. Here's 4 people. Here's a truck. Here's a rucksack of ammo. Go make it happen. That's what I want to be able to do. And I think these are the kinds of things that are going to make way more of a difference for the long-term enjoyment of State of Decay than all of the cosmetic improvements ever. And that's because the heart of the game is not collecting guns. Like, that's not what State of Decay is about. It's not about cosmetics. It's about the zombie management community simulation. That is the heart of State of Decay. That's the part that needs the most love. That's the part that needs to be expanded. And if it's expanded, that's the part that's going to give you the biggest return on investment. That's what's going to make people, like Minecraft, people just come back over and over to play Minecraft. Thousands of hours people put into that game, and it's because there's just so much, the world, like the sky's the limit in Minecraft, and sometimes the different dimensions, sometimes even beyond that, because there's just so much to do, and you're only limited by your imagination. And so State of Decay 2 can tap into this to a degree by increasing the game's difficulty in terms of decision-making, not necessarily in terms of now juggernauts appear in groups of 20. They're just everywhere. Good God, it's Juggernaut Central, and now the regular zombies do like 50% of your health with a single scratch. Like that's we don't need an ultra nightmare. I think Nightmare Zone is a perfectly good difficulty. I think the zombies do just enough damage. Like there's just enough zombies. What we need now though is depth to the game, and we need more decay. Notice how when I said the fog of war, like your intel decays, that's what we need in State of Decay. We need more decaying in State of Decay, and then more ways to kind of, you got the ship, and the ship is getting leaks. The holes are springing in the ship, and you're plugging up the holes, so we need more ways the ship gets holes, and more ways to plug the ship back up to keep things running. That's what State of Decay needs, and this is just one idea of how I think it could be made a lot better. So let me know what you think down in the comments section. I will be making more subjects about this. I will talk about, like tell me what you want to see. Once I've read enough comments about what you guys want to see, maybe I'll make a video talking about what your ideas are. But yeah, I'll do this periodically. We'll talk about what we want to see in State of Decay 3. But you let me know what you think down in the comment section. Like this video if it was entertaining, and subscribe for future State of Decay content. Of course, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.